I am so excited for today's conversation. I have my guest Maggie on the show, and she is here to talk to us about self-mastery and just dive into a conversation. So welcome, Maggie, to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I love it. So let's dive right in. I just shared with you before we went live a little bit of your numerology, and I'm curious what your biggest takeaway or biggest, like, oh, wow, that is me moment might have been in that.
Everything you said, I was like, oh, okay, that's me. The intuition part, I have been very in tune with my intuition. Even before, I went through my spiritual awakening, I didn't know the difference between my intuition versus my mind or my ego, but it seems like my intuition always had a way of pulling me towards the decision, even though I couldn't
Mhm.
tell the difference. And the other thing you said, it's like I have an abundance of something and I like to amplify things, which
Yes.
I tend to do that. It's like
Mhm.
I see myself as like this water type of energy, which I know is like the feminine energy, but the way that I see it, it's like I can be still water, I can be like a river flowing or a stream, I can be crashing waves, or I can give you a tsunami if you decide.
Oh my God, I love that metaphor. That's so cool. It could be a
Yeah.
tsunami.
So yeah, I do tend to amplify things. Just depends
Mhm.
on what I get.
I love that. I love that. And a tsunami can go both ways. A tsunami can be useful, sometimes can be not useful too. So just having that awareness, which leads us right into self mastery, because understanding who we are and how we show up in the world helps us to navigate the tsunami when it comes along, right? So tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
your journey of self mastery and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I am a fitness and life coach. I'm also a podcaster. I'm the host of the Mind Muscle Enlightenment podcast. And the four areas of fitness that I focus on are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And it's that embodiment of mind, body, and soul. So I really started my personal development journey at 16 when I lost my mom to breast cancer. And at that time, my dad had already been in jail for, I think, 2 or 3 years. So all of a sudden, I needed to step in this role of taking care of myself, taking care of my little brother. He's 5 years younger than me. And at that point, I came down with an eating disorder, anxiety, depression, and dealing with the grief. So just everything combined put me into a rock bottom in my life. And at that point, when you hit that rock bottom, you can only get yourself out of it because there's nowhere else to go. So that was when I started my journey, and overcoming all of these things led me to a point of focusing on the four areas of fitness, so the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, because I realized that if we miss any one of these areas, we end up finding ourselves unfulfilled and trying to fill a void within ourselves with something external, which I did for a long time. I was using food, exercise, relationships to fill that void, when in reality, I had to fill that void from within. So that's what I do now.
Oh my gosh, yes, you are speaking my language, finding your source of whatever it is you need from inside, not from outside. And I know, like, society has trained us to numb it, dumb it, Netflix it, feed it, whatever, like,
Mhm.
don't feel it, right? And we really need to feel it. I think that's so important. And I honor your journey. That is a lot to navigate. And I know, like, when I hear these stories, I'm so inspired by people just picking themselves
Thank
back
you.
up. And it's, oh, so incredible. Thank you for sharing that story with us.
Thank
So,
you.
in your work, who are you most motivated to serve? Who do you help the most?
Yeah, so this has changed over time because I have taken on different directions in my personal life. So at first, I was serving women who wanted to lose weight and build muscle, and I was only focusing on that physical aspect. And
Mhm.
then I realized, obviously in my personal life, there is so much more to life than just how you look and how you eat and how you exercise. So then I expanded that to the mind, body, and soul. So just serving women on these different levels. And then, nowadays I realized that I didn't want to just serve women. So I started opening up
Mm.
things to men as well. So we'll see where that goes because I just recently started opening up
Mhm.
things to men, but we'll see.
I love that though, and this is a call out to men, honestly. We need more men that are using the whole body, like the embodiment. I love that word, embodiment. And we need more men on board with this work too. So I honor you in that for sure. So self-mastery. This is like this subjective term. Does anybody really know what it means? I'm curious what you believe self-mastery to be.
Hmm. I think self-mastery is a constant work in progress. And
Yes.
I I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, I've mastered myself. There's nothing else for me to work on.
Right? Self-mastery is not the final destination. It's not a
Right.
thing.
Right. It's this journey that we're taking on, like this path towards mastery that we are constantly working towards. And it's funny because every time I think that I'm done working on something, it's like the universe sends me something that hits me again. And you're like, oh, I'm not done. And we have actually so many blind spots that we don't see. And it's up to people around us maybe sometimes to tell us, or the universe sends us different situations to teach us lessons, because our ego will always tell us, oh, there's nothing else to work on, I'm done, I'm fully mastered. So it's a constant journey that we're going on.
Yeah, I love that. I always think of the ego as this little 5-year-old who's like, I know, I've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Okay. So, how has self mastery supported you as an entrepreneur? Being an online entrepreneur has its ups and downs and adventures, and I'm curious how that has supported you along the way.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started my business, I was so focused on the strategies. Like, what's the best marketing strategy? How do I make sales? And I had all of these strategies, but I still wasn't having success. I still wasn't making sales. And the more I tried to change my strategies, the more confused I was because I said, I've tried everything. And why wasn't anything working out? When in reality, I was missing that inner work because as an entrepreneur, I'm sure it's an emotional roller coaster, especially in the beginning. Everything that you didn't want to face within yourself gets brought up to the surface, and you're forced to look at all of those things. And it wasn't until I looked at myself and turned inward and did that inner work, that's when my business started taking off, like literally. So this one day, I just remember I was so devastated, and I was living back in LA at the time, and I went for a walk by the beach. And at the beach, I just had this crazy breakdown because I'm like, I've tried everything, nothing is working out in my business, I'm failing. And all of a sudden, I just had this realization that this whole time I didn't feel like I deserved the money. I didn't feel like I deserved the
Mm.
success. And when I had that realization, I just started breaking down, realizing that it all came from my childhood, feeling unworthy of success and people telling me that I don't deserve anything. And I went back home and journaled the whole thing out, pretty much worked through the undeserving issue. And I kid you not, the next day, I just signed a client. It was literally like magic, just like unlocks. and 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 it's crazy because before that, I was probably making like $400 a month in my business. And after that, the very next month, I had a 7K month. And the entire
Yes.
time, it was like me. I was holding myself back the whole time. So the inner work is where that.
Right? Oh, this resonates with me so much because I was the same way when I first started my business. I was like, I have all the strategies, I know what to do. And if I just work a little bit harder, then somehow I will break through. And I was working like 15-hour days, 7 days a week, just go, go, go. And all of my personal life was falling apart at the seams. And I just kept pushing. And then somebody once said to me, I don't even remember the words, but I just remember just kind of taking a step back and going, oh. And then I started on the personal development journey and the spiritual development journey, and game changer.
Yeah.
We're the only ones standing in our way.
Yeah, same thing for me. I was working those 15-hour days, feeling so burnt out. My relationships were all falling apart. And you don't have to work that hard to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve.
Exactly. So for anyone who's listening to this, it's not about the hustle, it's about the inner work every single time. Every single time. The strategy that helps later once you got this figured out in your head.
Yeah.
So here at Rebel Radio, this leads into the next question perfectly because a 7K month is no joke. And I'm sure that you've had higher months than that. But I am passionate about activating wealth for entrepreneurs. But wealth is another one of those words that's like, what does it even mean? So I'm curious what wealth means to you.
That's a good question because when I think a lot of people think about wealth, they're thinking money and assets and the things that you can own. And I thought about it that way for a long time. Like, how can I become wealthy? How can I make more money so that I can create more wealth? When in reality, wealth is in yourself here right now. You are
Yes.
wealth. You being here is you being wealthy. And the paradox of this whole thing is when you start realizing that you are the embodiment of wealth to begin with, and it's not outside of yourself, it's not something that you're going to achieve or you're going to get, that's when the money starts coming to you because you're creating that energy that is attracting the money, and the money wants to come to you because you are already feeling that within yourself. So I would say wealth is not outside of us, it's here and now within us.
Oh, total body shivers. Yes. Yes, money is a side effect of the feeling state of wealth. And from a quantum physics point of view, I see it as wealth is vibrating at a specific frequency, a wave pattern. And when we get ourselves matched up to that wave pattern, then we are vibrating at that same frequency and the money has to come. It's just a side effect of it. But we need to feel that wealth inside first, just like we need to feel that worthiness and whatever it is that we want to feel, right? We got to create it inside first. Ugh, love that so much.
Yeah.
So good. So what is one truth that you wish every entrepreneur knew?
Oh.
Everybody always laughs. Just one?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, on this journey, you go through everything, the ups and downs. And the one truth that I can tell you, which I I honestly wish that somebody had told me this before I started, is if I could look back at my business, like before I started, if somebody had told me that this was the journey that I was going to be taking on, I don't know if I would have done it, honestly. I'm I'm glad that nobody told me so that
Right?
I took on the journey and I figured it out because I'm the person who, like, if I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to go in. There's no way I back out once I decide I'm going to. At the time, like, somebody had told me this is what it's going to be like, I don't would have done it.
Right? Oh my gosh, if somebody had told me that I would be talking about money and wealth and quantum numerology, I would have been like, no. It's always a surprise, right? I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. So, what's something that you've discovered about yourself along your journey that you'd love to share with our audience to help inspire them, lift them up, motivate them?
Mm, I mean, just so many things about me, and this whole thing was this uncovering of who I am, because at the beginning of this journey, I put on all of these different masks, like emotional masks, like around me, just covering up who I really am, because I was so afraid to show myself to the world and thinking that I'm not going to be accepted. And over time, I just realized that are going to judge you regardless of what you're doing. Nowadays, I still get judged. Whatever I say, someone's going to disagree with me. And I've had people who, I mean, even if I don't say anything, someone's going to come disagree with me. So whatever it is, someone will have an opinion. So you might as well just do what you want to do, because at the end of the day, this life is for you, this business is for you, and this business is to serve the world. And if you're hiding, if you don't want to show yourself to the world, you're actually doing a disservice to the world, because the world needs you.
Right? You might as well just do what you want to do. Like, mic
Yeah.
drop, episode's over right there. I love that so much. And I love that you brought up the idea, the wearing of masks. This is a conversation that I've been having a few times where this pandemic and having to wear masks is kind of a metaphor for how we've been navigating life, because we all put on masks and we behave a certain way in front of certain people and we behave differently in front of other people. And it's like we have these instead of a shoe collection, we've got a mask collection where we're like, oh, now I need this one, now I need this one, and now we've got an extra one with the pandemic, right? So I'm curious, with everything that's going on in current events, pandemic, whatever else, politics, racism, everything that's rising up for us right now to be cleared, what would you share with our audience about what's going on in the world?
Oh my gosh, this question is so good, because I've been sharing more and more about like my views on what's happening, because I see everyone just,
Oh, you froze. Well, we'll give her a minute to come back. And if she doesn't come back, well, that was a beautiful episode, regardless. You gotta love technology and how sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And everything is perfect exactly how it is. So, Maggie, I want to thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your honoring of the self mastery journey. And she's back. So, we'll bring her back in for the conversation. Yay, Maggie, she's back.
back. My internet, it's just deciding to act up. But
I always look at technology glitches as it's energy, right? And we started talking about something that is quote unquote controversial. And so the internet's like, hold on, gotta kick you out. So now you're back. Please answer the question.
yeah, and like speaking of energy, how it's like super weird. So I work with energy, right? Like I do like energy healing and all that stuff. And there are times where I have channeled energy just in my apartment, and then my technology, my Wi-Fi router will immediately start cutting out. So I don't know if it's something that I did, but
It's pretty normal. Yeah, because our human energy is way more powerful than internet and computers. And so we can actually override that energy. So it makes sense if you're doing Reiki or any kind of energy healing that it would glitch out.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. But anyways, to get back to the question that we
Yes,
were
please.
talking about. So I see a lot of people, just taking sides with what's going on in the world. And the way that I see it, if we're still taking sides, if we're still saying, oh, I'm the left, I'm the right, like you're wrong, I'm right, And that means that we're still stuck in the matrix. We're still stuck in 3D. Because if you're still taking a side, that means you haven't pulled yourself out of the polarity. And in order to move into 5D, which is where we're moving, we want to move into this unity consciousness, you have to look at both sides and realize that you have to look at it from a bird's eye view, that you have, different sides, different people having different opinions. But at the end of the day, we're moving towards unity consciousness. So instead of getting sucked into the fear, into taking a side and tearing each other down, what if we just stepped back and observed all of these different views? Because at the end of the day, if we want to move into unity, if we want to move into love, we can't be tearing each other down. And the world, like the word that's been coming up to me a lot is discernment. And discernment really means that you can't just use your analytical mind to decide what's wrong and what's right, because your mind will always have an opinion. So if you're only using your mind, that's judgment. That's not discernment. And discernment is if you tune into the frequency behind the message that you're hearing. Is this a fear-based frequency or is this a love-based frequency? So when you tune into the frequency, that's what discernment is.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like, seriously, goosebumps. This is like my favorite conversation because we need to understand that we learn from everyone. And when we're judging or criticizing somebody who has a different opinion than us, we're judging and criticizing ourselves. And that unity consciousness that's coming in, that many of us are experiencing already, you can see someone with a different opinion and love them in it. And it doesn't matter what they're doing or how they're behaving or what their beliefs are. We can just love them anyways. And I think that's so important for us as a society to start leaning into that. So
Yeah,
good.
exactly. And like it doesn't matter what people are saying if they're coming from a place of love. So this is why it's so important to tune into that frequency. Like I can listen to somebody who tells me something different, but if I can feel that they're coming from a loving place, they want what's the best for me, then I'm open to whatever it is that they're saying, because I don't know if I'm right or if I'm wrong, because what is the truth?
Right? And then there's always that 5-year-old child saying, I know everything. I love that. Maggie, thank you so much for being on the show. This conversation, every Rebel Radio episode just lights me so up so much. But thank you for being on the show. I've loved sharing this information with you, hearing your story, hearing how you see the world. And as always, we end Rebel Radio with one last question. What do you dream of for the world?
I just dream that we would move into this place of unity consciousness and love, because that's the core of what we are. We all came from love. We are love. We are here to love. And where we're going is a place of love.
Right? I just want to give you a big giant hug right now.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, Maggie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.